Hi, Joe. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. We've got a rainy day in Texas here, and actually it's good because we've been through a drought. So I'm doing fine. I'm looking out the window. I'm safe. I'm sound. I'm dry, and I'm watching the ground get wet. So all is well in the world.
Well, that's good. Well, a lot of people know you because you really are a master marketer. And we can maybe touch on some of that. But what I really wanted to talk to you about today was more, I guess, the spiritual side of things, the meaning of life, your take on life and success. I think if I was to make a general statement about the people listening to this, I would say that, in fact, you could say this, I suppose, about any people, but that people want to be happy. They want to be peaceful inside, and they want to be successful in the world in some way. And knowing you as I do, I know that you have some thoughts about this, and I know that like me, you have been searching in your own life for how to create these things, and as I happen to know that you've done a very good job of doing this. You know, the $450,000 in 3 days and those kinds of things are all great. But if you're not happy and peaceful and fulfilled in what you're doing, you know, what does it mean? So can you start off and just sort of talk to me a little bit about your philosophy of life and anything that comes to mind about those three things that I mentioned?
Wow, I didn't know that we would go right into the deep end here and go with these giant philosophical, life-changing, life quest type questions.
Well, we can be practical too.
I'll tell you, I love what you've just painted here about everybody wants to be happy and we want to be successful and we want to be at peace. I think that's ultimately what we're all after, whatever it is we say we want, whether it's the new house, the new car, better health, more wealth, a relationship, whatever it happens to be. We want it because we believe it will help us to be at peace. It will help us to be happy or happier. And what I have discovered for myself, and you know, a lot of other people have discovered it, but discovering it for yourself is always the life-turning event. What I learned for myself is that you don't need any of it to be happy right now. And that is probably the $1 million insight of the day, if not of a lifetime, to realize that right now, in this very moment, as we live and breathe, as this conversation is taking place, as you're sitting up in Oregon, I believe, and I'm here in Texas, we are totally fine. We don't need anything else to take place for us to be happy. Happiness, at peace, and so forth is fundamentally a choice.
Well, I totally agree with you, and this is exactly what I have been teaching for years. That, you know, people whose happiness and inner peace are dependent on what goes on around them have to wait for perfect circumstances in order to feel good. And good grief, how often does that happen? So, you know, not very darned often. And so I agree with you. It comes from inside. And so the question people often have is, well, so how do I do that then?
Well, you brought up a couple of things here. First of all, I want to agree that most of us, myself included, I don't want to act like I'm enlightened or anything here. I have my moments where I recognize that all is well, but I often lose it because I'll start looking to outside reality, and I'll want to change things on the outside so I feel better on the inside. And I have to continuously remind myself that, no, this is the moment. It is this moment. The point of power is right now. That doesn't mean I'm not going to go for things on the outside. It doesn't mean I'm not going to write another book or do another promotion or try to make a book a bestseller or try to lose more weight or try to do this or try to do that. I will do all of that, but I will do it from a place of peace and safety and security. And I think this is the real lesson when you asked how do we go about this. It's a matter of realizing you're totally fine right now where you're at. In fact, you're probably living like a king or a queen compared to people in third world countries or people in our past history. You are probably living this lifestyle that other people, if they saw it, would be totally envious of. And we don't pause and appreciate it because we want more, 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 and more. So I think the first step is to realize you're totally fine where you're at. If peace is there available to you, happiness is in this moment, you can choose to see it, choose to accept it. And then the second step is to choose what you would like to have to experience next. And this sounds like I'm making it a kindergarten level type of process, and in many ways it is. Be happy now, choose what you like to experience next, start working towards it. There you go, 3 steps, we're done.
Now, just to play devil's advocate, what do you say to someone who says, "Well, that sounds great in theory, but I just had to declare bankruptcy, and my spouse left me, and my dog was killed, and everything isn't all right. It doesn't seem that everything's all right for me now."
Yeah, I love that you brought that up, Bill. I mean, you're really going for the throat here with asking these questions, right there. They're the important questions. In my book, one of the most recent ones, The Attractor Factor, in the back I have this quote that reminds people to put things into perspective. And I'm not going to be able to give you the exact quote, but the idea behind it is, whatever's going on right now, if it looks absolutely horrible in your life, 1 year from now, or certainly 5 years from now, or certainly 10 years from now, you will look back at this moment in time and you will find a good way of looking at it. You will often say, there's so many cancer victims, for example, who will say, cancer was the best thing that ever happened to me. But when they were diagnosed with it, that was a very bad day. A very bad day. But a year later, 5 years later, whatever it happened to be, they will look back and say it was the most beautiful thing that ever happened. And for a variety of reasons. It may have helped them build strength. It may have helped them learn discipline. It may have helped them believe in magic and miracles. It may have helped them believe in realizing the beauty of each moment. I don't know what that is. But what I'm suggesting here is that this moment, if the wife did leave or the husband and the dog died and whatever else happens to have been there, 5 years perspective will give you a different view of this moment in reality. So if that 5 years perspective is available to you 5 years from now, it's available to you right now.
Well, you know, one of the things that I teach is that the entire key to life is what you focus on.
Yes, yes.
And so if something that you would prefer not to happen happens, and good Lord, that happens to everyone. If you go a week where something happens, or even a whole day where something that you didn't want to happen to you happens, then I think that would be pretty extraordinary. You know, Napoleon Hill always said, every adversity carries with it the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit.
Yes, absolutely.
And that you have to look for that benefit. So when something happens, if you focus on what could the potential benefits of this be, it takes your mind in a whole new direction that creates a completely different reality for you than if you then start instead focusing on what you don't like about what has happened.
Absolutely. It's a fundamental law in psychology that you get more of whatever you focus on. And again, in the Attractor Factor, I say that's what you end up attracting into your life. So if you end up focusing on whatever it is that you're perceiving to be bad, then you will get more of those kind of feelings because you are in that energy place that you're acting like a magnet for it. You're going to pull more of it to you. You're going to see it because you have these eyes of misery, and you will look for more misery. However, if you look at this moment and say, well, that's unfortunate that took place, I wonder what the good is in it, or even better, I wonder how I can turn it into something good. From a marketing standpoint, I'm always telling people I see opportunities everywhere because whenever somebody states a complaint, I hear it as an opportunity. If somebody complains that a product doesn't work or something in their life isn't going the way they want, I'm thinking in the back of my mind, I wonder how I can create a product that will give them what they want. I wonder how I can create an ebook or an audio or some sort of product that will help them achieve what they want. I hear the complaints as opportunities. That causes my perception to be completely different. I don't get stuck in the mindset of, I don't want this. I get into the mindset of, how can I turn this into something positive? And, of course, in my case, I want to profit from it while helping others. So it is a whole perceptual thing, and it is in our control. The vast majority of the people out there, not the people listening to this call, because I'm sure they're more elevated in their awareness and their consciousness, but the vast majority of the people out there are stuck on that plane of being a victim. And as they look at themselves in their life as being a victim, they get more of that kind of stuff. They're going to pull in everything that's going to enable them to be a victim. The ironic thing about all of this is that they are creating it. They don't know that they're creating it because they're totally unconscious of the process. I tell people, including myself when I look in the mirror, that everything that's happening in my life is a creation. And I was the guy creating it.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, this whole series that I'm doing, this World's Greatest Teachers series, came about because of this Oracle database debacle we had that affected tons and tons of people, and I said the very thing we've been talking about. I said, how can I turn this disaster into something positive? And because of that, this series, I know, is going to help a lot of people.